Citalopram nightmare. I'm in Newcastle, and I and a group of friends try to go to the Lang Gallery, but it's closed. But we find that a branch of Borders is still open, so we go there. While I'm there, I observe to someone that perhaps it is a good thing that the Lang Gallery is closed, because I have gone to a seminar in the sort of past of the dream. I seem to be taking some kind of creative writing course, and I have been to a seminar by Tom Kelly, whose name I can't remember when I'm telling my friend, that has ended, no, that didn't end, it's in the past, in the dream, but he spent a lot of time during the lecture complaining about the Lang needing a thorough clean. I comment that I feel the same. The paintings have been very dusty when I've gone there. We walk around the shop a bit more. I find a poetry section, and I'm looking through it, but all the books are either hardbacks and far too expensive, or the paperbacks are really populist and middle of the road. There's nothing that appeals to me in the section. But while I'm there, I run into Jane, who I used to work at Borders with, and I have a chat with her, and she offers to meet me after we're finished at whatever it is we're doing, at a place called Michael Bar, which is a hairdresser, and apparently if she introduces a new customer, she can get like a free haircut or something. So like she'll pay for mine, and she'll pay for it, and then I'll give her the money, basically, or some such thing like that. She has to check, so I tell her that that's fine, but I'm not going to be finished till 6 o'clock. So she has to check with someone else who I think is either a friend of hers or her boyfriend or something, whether that's okay. So she goes off to do that, and I have kind of lost my friends at this point. So I decide to wander around the shops after a bit of a weird moment when I there's bits of the shop seem to be changing, so that there are bits that are still very much a bookshop, but there are also bits that resemble nightclubs. I also notice that there are directions for how to get to Waterstones, which appears to be linked to the shop in some way in the shop, which seems weird to me. At the time, I just think it's weird that Borders would incorporate Waterstones, but there's also, looking back on it now, perhaps this is the start of the geographical uncertainty that marks the dream, because there physically is no way you could you could connect up another store with the Waterstones in town. Nor indeed could you connect Borders, this hypothetical Borders store, to the John Lewis store in town, which, without ever actually explaining that that's what it is, it seems to be doing. I have bought some books, and I have them in a bag, but I'm wandering around this shop, and it seems to just keep getting bigger. I walk into an area which is like some kind of fantasy setting. It's clearly some kind of attempt to showcase something or other. It has a promotional purpose. It's about selling the shop, but it's difficult to see what is on sale. There's a long ramp leading down, and then there are multiple interleaving levels with water, some of which is covered by glass and some of which is open. From the open areas, people are coming out who appear to be dressed in some kind of really astonishing costumes that make them look like fauns or water spirits or fairies or stuff like that. They're very, very striking. It's hard to see how they are how the costumes are made, and they keep coming out. One of them asks me some kind of question in an amused tone. I can't remember what exactly. I remember thinking at this point that this is like somewhere in a dream I've had, although I don't at that point make the connection that I am actually dreaming. I walk further up, and then I'm going through a bit that looks quite Phoenixy, but there's a strange mixture of books and and other things, and I bump into 4 dudes, one of whom is a sort of dapper person in a suit, and they start asking me slightly weird questions, and I'm not entirely sure what I can, what their game is. The dapper guy keeps opening, he has a weird, almost like a cigarette case, but it seems to also be his wallet. It contains money, but it also contains treats, and he offers me some of them, and I take they're like purple disc-shaped, a bit like Vocal Zone pastels, actually, but they have more of a rhomboid shape to them. Their sides, each face, one is smaller than the other. They're like a not a rhombus, but like a round, like a pill style thing, like a cone, but without the point, a flattened cone shape, but wide. But they're also very, very thin and very kind of sparkly. They seem almost like crystals rather than gels. There's another type of sweet as well, and I have that first. But then he offers me one of the purple ones, just a very, very small one. But I agree to have that. After I take the sweet, they seem to disappear. They're there and then they're not. But they leave behind a manifest or a sort of a list which purports to be of a group of important occult texts, but I remember looking at it and thinking, those are weird, but I wouldn't say they're occult. I can't remember, annoyingly, I can't remember what any of the books on it were, or even if they were actual books, but I just remember thinking, that's weird. And then I sort of walk on further, and I come to a big, like a really vast area which has lots of sort of brick walkways in, and there's another sort of nightclub here, or it might be a theatre, it might be somewhere people are waiting, because there seems to be a sense that people are waiting for a performance, and there's lots of them, and they're very, very young and beautiful looking. I don't even know if young is the right word, because they're kind of just incredibly sort of beautiful, cool, hip, astonishing people. And at this point, I realise that I need to use the toilet. So I try and find one, and it takes me ages, and when I do find the toilets, they seem to be I find the gents, and then I find another toilet which seems to have a lot more women in, and it seems to have like a powder room arrangement where women are sitting around waiting, but I can't find an actual... there are weird rooms which seem to have lots of medical equipment in them, and things like that. But I can't find a room which actually has... and sinks, but I can't find a room which actually has a toilet in it until I find that they have these bizarre things which are... they're like cubicles, they're like pods, and if you press to open them, a toilet will fold out from inside it. Quite an ornate one, but they're not enclosed so that you can have a certain amount of privacy, but, you know, everyone else can see you, and I think this is what the other women in the toilet are doing, though they seem to be fully clothed while they're doing this. I think they're actually on the loo rather than a powder room situation, and I start to worry, and I try to get back to the gents and just, you know, because all I need is a pee, so I think I'll just go in there because I've seen urinals, but obviously I'm really anxious about using those, and I run back out, but I can't really find them now, and then I go back to the area where where people seem to be waiting for the performance, and it's empty now, and it seems much, much bigger, and there's a sense of someone else, footsteps, sort of clacking high-heeled footsteps, and a sort of noir figure walking around, but I can't see anyone, that's just a sense, and, so I run, and eventually, for some reason, I find an area where there is a bed, and I lie down there, and I sleep, and I come around later feeling like everything that's just happened has been a nightmare, but I am in the shop. I don't actually know if maybe I've got the order of those incidents slightly reversed. Although actually no, that maybe I actually went to the bed first and then woke up and thought that I had to find the toilets, and yeah, that's what actually happened, because I left the I remember leaving my stuff behind when I had to go to the toilet, and I'd already gone into the bed by that point, because when I got up I was I only had my my pants on, which is the way that I usually sleep, and I remember feeling worried that people would react oddly if they saw me walking around the shop, first of all with my tits out, and second of all with you know, the whole toilet situation as well, though people didn't seem to be particularly shocked by that, and I remember thinking that it was nice that I was passing well enough. People didn't even seem to be that shocked by me. There was a kind of, you know, people seemed, there was a sense that it was definitely a breach in decorum, but no one seemed to be, no one seemed to be overly put out, and then I wound up going back, and then I wound up, I think, sort of waking up from the bed and thinking, oh my god, that was a really weird dream, and thinking that I had to go and find some staff to actually help me get out of this place. So I did go and find someone, and they were about to take me to the, you know, I said, look, I need someone to guide me back to Borders, please, so that I can, you know, get back there. And this member of staff was like, oh yes. And then she started doing, you know, the customer service thing that service workers are told they have to do, which is they start asking me about, oh, what's your favourite book and stuff like that, and kind of, you know, and I remember sort of, I was very clipped with her in the dream, because I had just had this weird nightmare, and And I was like, look, I appreciate what you're doing, but I'm stressing a lot here. Also, there had been a point, at some point in the dream, I think before I found the bed, when I'd actually gone out of the shop and I'd found this, and that really freaked me out because I was in an area that definitely wasn't Newcastle, and there was definitely a feeling of being another place to the scene, and this, there was a train, it was like a train carriage, and it was big and black, and it kept turning around and around and around, and there was something wrong about it. There was something wrong about the way it was turning, and there was something wrong about the way people were watching it. I remember thinking, I don't know if I saw something in the place that said it was part of some kind of art exhibition or what, but it just seemed really strange. And actually it was after that I found the bed and lay down, because I had found a different place that seemed to be outside, although again it seemed, as soon as I found this other place where the bed was, it seemed to be enclosed, although I can't really see how I went from, I never went like inside and outside, and this happened after talking with the four weird guys, but before the going to sleep, and before the toilet anxiety dream within the dream. And I remember trying to put together how this could fit with the Newcastle that I'd thought was outside of the shop in my head, because it didn't. Nothing lined up. It was like a totally different place. So anyway, that's the train, and there I woke up and I went to find someone to help me get out and find where Borders was, and find, earlier on I'd mentioned to Jane that I'd really enjoyed our time working there, and this was when she actually talked about maybe going and seeing this hairdresser. So I wanted to get back there, and when this member of staff was helping me find my way back there, just when we'd met up at a till, and then she was going to sort of lead me back, we turned around and there was this big woman who was black, and she had one of those necks where they're just continuous with the chin. She had that going on, and she was calling me a man. She said, she said, you are a really nice gentleman, and then she seemed to realise that she'd made a mistake, and the member of staff apologised as well, and she started backing off, this woman, and the last thing I remember happening in the dream, before waking up, is, first of all, I had this really strong sense that actually there was something wrong about this woman, like about the way that she, like her head and her body and everything just seemed out of proportion, like they were like a shell or a disguise or something. And I remember before I finally woke up, I leaned forward onto something and I screamed and was tremendously conscious of my teeth when screaming it. Something like, "You'd make a better gentleman than me," or "If I'm a gentleman, then you are too," or something. But it was like, it was screamed with such vehemence, and it was like a curse or something. It was like an absolute sort of I said it in this weird, almost demonic voice, and I felt like an animal, like some kind of like a dog, but a dog with a dog made of metal.